First I did music, then I did sports. What's next? Jail, prison, juvie, criminal activity, breaking the law, you name it. I'm simplifying the title to just jail because I think that fits a lot better, but that's exactly what we're going to be looking at in this video. This is a video for all of the blessed total drama characters who have been arrested and gone to jail in some sort of capacity. This video is also going to include those who work for law against criminals, as they are obviously still affiliated and connected with criminals, it's just that they aren't the ones committing the crimes. So get ready for a video all about the dangerous criminals and helpful cops of Total Drama. In the finale of Total Drama Island, Chef Hatchet makes a passing comment in a confessional of his when he talks about having to cook for the whole cast for the entire season. He says that he had better jobs in prison, which I guess would mean he was a chef of some sort for some prisons, although it's entirely possible he could have done other things as Chef is just extremely multifaceted. As for cops, I mean, the police cadets from Redonkulous Race are obvious. MacArthur and Sanders are police cadets, which means they're like cops in training. Their dynamic is a common trope with cops in entertainment, as Sanders is usually the good cop and MacArthur is the bad cop. Sanders is the one who really likes sticking to the rules, while MacArthur is very rambunctious, but she does still abide by the code of honor and whatnot for cops. Sanders' future after this is unknown, but MacArthur is seen after Redonkulous Race. Now, I'm not talking about Drama-Rama and whatever stuff she did on that, but what I am talking about is the Total Drama reboot. In the second season, MacArthur comes back as a guest for the challenge where it's revealed she's now the Master Sergeant of a K-9 unit. That's a pretty big upgrade after being a cadet, and since in universe this takes place probably like a decade after Redonkulous Race, that's a pretty good career path for her. So in Total Drama All-Stars, we were all introduced to Mal, who is the real Mike, a super powerful alter ego of his, or kinda something in between. I don't know, I feel like that whole part gets a little confusing, but the reason he's even included in this video is because he did go to juvie. He didn't just go to any juvie though, he went to the same juvie that Duncan was held at, and according to Duncan, Mal was a super dangerous and evil inmate. Considering the absurd strength and devilish qualities that Mal possesses, that does seem like it's probably true, but it's interesting because Duncan has talked about his time in juvie for ages and rarely discusses other inmates. Still though, Mal was apparently known to just do bad things for the sake of doing bad things, and if that's the case, which does seem likely, how in the world was he even let out? Granted, all these guys are teenagers, and if Duncan and Mal were in juvie together in the past, they must have been some really young teenagers, but still, the guy should be locked up for a long time. Maybe the officers realized this was an alter ego and it was during juvie Mike was able to take back his own mind, or I don't know, I have no idea. But Mal is seriously one messed up dude. This is something that I had completely forgotten about until doing some research for this video, but Ripper has also been arrested. This is only ever mentioned in his intro video in the reboot's premiere, but he's even got mugshots and everything. According to him, he got in trouble with the law for pooping in a woman's purse on a bus. That's probably not a law you'll ever end up reading about, but I mean, that just makes sense to be a crime because like, why would you ever do such a thing? Ripper was a nasty dude, and he may complain about the Canadian law system with regards to the removal of human waste, but this is an absolutely heinous crime to be committed. In Hook, Line, and Screamer, the cast was tasked with surviving the wrath of an escaped psycho killer. Obviously, the whole thing was staged. There was the legit-looking newspaper, Chef and Chris bailed from the dock of shame, and this chef actually dressed up as the killer. However, the actual psycho killer was on the island this whole time. Well, okay, who knows how long, but he was there. This guy escaped from prison, and to be fair, escaping to an island does sound smart, except for the fact that this is an island with a reality show being filmed on it. Not to mention, he kinda sucked at being an intimidating killer. I mean, he's definitely probably killed some people, but Gwen was not fazed by him at all. Even when she was a little scared, she still kicked his ass, and he walked off in shame. He was apparently treated better in prison, which I feel like could mean a lot of different things, so I'll leave that there for interpretation. But it's cool that Total Drama had a real psychotic criminal on the loose featured on their show. The Celebrity Manhunt special gave updates on all of the Total Drama contestants, including 2 of which who got into some legal trouble. Beth and Lindsay accidentally ruined the Mona Lisa in Paris, France, and well, that got them locked up. The whole thing is hilarious too because it was so easily avoidable, but Lindsay and Beth were just being their best selves and ended up smudging the painting like crazy. They also got some mugshots, and apparently they were in jail for months. Now, the amount of months isn't specified, but it must have been really bad because depending on the ending of Total Drama Action, the bail money to free them is crazy. Either Beth ends up using her winnings to bail them out, or Beth's parents sell their car to afford it. French prison bail money must be no joke, but what they did was pretty bad. Still though, these two are some hardened criminals. One of the biggest criminals from the show is none other than the host himself, Chris McLean. Revenge of the Island is when Chris really went overboard with the toxic waste all over the island, causing extreme environmental harm. Due to his disregard or care for what he was doing, the government was forced to come in and place the island under quarantine and Chris under arrest. I mean, considering all the insane things Chris did in like every season of the show, it's kinda surprising something like this didn't happen sooner, but nuclear waste is definitely no laughing matter. Anyways, Chris ends up spending a whole year in prison before being released, and at first when Chef goes to collect him, Chris wants to actually stay there, but that's until Chef reveals that a new season of the show has been greenlit. I want to know how exactly the TV executives even came to the decision to do that after the government quarantine and arrest, but I mean ratings equal money, so that probably makes sense. But yeah, Chris ended up going to prison, served hard time, but just returned to civilization did not change at all. If anything, he might have gone worse after his stay in prison. Someone else the government is always after is Izzy. Since the very first season, in the episode Up the Creek, Izzy mentions how the RCMP, which is the Royal Canadian Mounted Police, have been looking for her after she blew up a kitchen during her summer training with the reserves. The RCMP then attempts to arrest Izzy at the bonfire ceremony, but she managed to run away and escape from their helicopter lights. This kind of cat and mouse game continues for the rest of the series, up until World Tour when she finally gets taken away, but that's not even by the RCMP, so I mean, who really knows what the status of their relationship is after that. Izzy was also reportedly number 8 on the RCMP's most wanted list, which obviously means arresting her is high priority, but then eventually nothing much happened after Total Drama Action despite them still wanting her. I mean, Sierra was helping Izzy fend them off from her, and I don't know, the RCMP must have just given up at some point, but Izzy is still a criminal in some sense. She does eventually morph into Brainzilla, and then I guess eventually is just back to being Izzy at some point, and this all can't go without saying that she is a certified maniac. An intelligent maniac, but a maniac nonetheless. And it's funny how she was only taken away by the military for intelligence purposes, and the RCMP never even got her. I mean, after a few years, you probably gotta let go of that kitchen fire and just get back to cooking, you know? And of course, this video can't end any other way than with the man himself, Duncan. But before we get to Duncan himself, it's important to look at who others are close to him. In his biography, it's stated that literally every single member of his family is a cop. And he's the only one who isn't. I mean, I can see how growing up in that kind of environment would turn one into a rebel, and that's exactly what Duncan is. Duncan talks a lot about his experiences in juvie, but these experiences have also made him as smart and as tough as he is. Even in his audition tape, he mentions how his big house is completely guarded with security cameras and guard dogs, yet he still tries escaping anyways. Now of course, this big house is basically just jail. Duncan always has a police officer as mentioned in the premiere of Total Drama, as well as another time in action, and it seems as though by going on Total Drama he avoided more time spent in juvie. Now there's obviously a lot more I could go into about Duncan and juvie, but Duncan hasn't only spent time in juvie. Fast forward to All Stars where Duncan was going through a personal crisis of being unable to be mean and bad, so he decided to take drastic measures to combat this. He blew up Chris's cottage. Now despite thinking he'd be going back to juvie, the fact that he destroyed private property of Chris's meant he was being taken to actual prison, big boy prison. There's that exclusive clip of Duncan in his prison cell where he's writing to his mom and hoping for a lawyer as soon as possible. But hey, Duncan upgraded from juvie to prison, and it was pretty poetic in my opinion that after everything he had done and experienced, he'd eventually be moved up to that. You can only be in juvie so many times without changing anything before something drastic happens, and well, he got sent to real prison. That's drastic. So, despite a bit of a shorter list compared to the music and sports videos, there is still a fairly sizable amount of characters in the show that are involved with the law, whether they're enforcing it or breaking it. Considering the amount of ridiculous hijinks that take place in the show, it does make sense for there to be some criminals among the characters. Let me know down below what you think of all this, and also let me know what else you'd like to see me talk about on this channel. Like the video, subscribe for more videos, and yeah, thank you for watching.